Hello everybody, welcome back to Chill Vibes Only. Today's video, as you can tell by probably the title, is how to get over a breakup spiritually or as a yogi. This is a video I've been wanting to film for a little while now. I recently went through a breakup this past summer. We're in the fall now, so I've had some time to kind of heal from that and learn a lot from that. And oh my gosh, of course, as soon as I start filming, there's a ton of sirens outside. But yeah, I had a lot of time to heal from that and learn from that, and I found like a lot of really helpful resources and learned a lot of things about myself through my yoga practice and through my spiritual journey that really helped me going through this breakup. So I thought I would make a video and share that with you guys because I watched so many people's videos, listened to so many podcasts, and got so much help from my online community around me. And if I can help someone else who's going through kind of a tricky time, I hope I can do that as well. The first thing I just want to say is that you are definitely not alone. It's so comforting, at least I found a lot of comfort in listening to other people talk about their breakup stories and share what they went through. Don't think you're alone. Like, there's so many people who have been through this, who have gone through this, who are doing amazing now. So if you're in that really deep, dark place, I know right after my breakup happened, I was like totally upset and obviously really confused and heartbroken, and I was probably at like the lowest of lows, and I'm already feeling so much better and doing so much better. So just know that if that's where you are right now, you're not alone. So many people have been there before, and you'll get through it too, and I hope these tips can kind of help you. So the first thing I have on my list is just to let it the fuck out. So I actually kind of heard this a few days ago in a podcast I was listening to, but they say it's like a wave of emotion that comes up for you. So any sort of type of emotion or switch or change, it's like the first 90 seconds is like this big wave of emotion. For me, it was a lot longer than 90 seconds. I don't want to get too into the details of my breakup, but it definitely wasn't something I was expecting. So when it happened, I did just suddenly feel this like rush of emotions, and I kind of almost like blacked out a little bit. So my first thing that I would like to say to you guys is, after that happens, when you find yourself alone, or maybe you're hopefully with someone or with someone who can support you, just to let it out. So cry, let the snot come out, do whatever you need to do, punch pillows, scream, shake. I remember I was in the shower, just kind of sitting in my shower, crying it out for an hour. Do whatever you need to do just to let that out of you. So part of with our yoga practice and what I've learned is like holding on to things and kind of sucking things down and trying to put on a face for people when you're upset or not doing well is not going to be healthy for you mentally or for your body. You're going to create all this tension and unease and store that energy deep down inside of you, which is what we don't want. So just let it out. This is 100% about you. You take care of you first. Don't feel awkward. Don't feel ashamed. I know when I went through my breakup, I cried the whole first night. I called my friend, cried with her on the phone for like at least 40 minutes, and then did the same thing with my mom. I just kept letting it out. I woke up the next day feeling like I got hit by a truck. That's okay. I called into work, and I took that time for myself and just said, hey, you know what? I can't be there because I need to let this out. I need to process. So that's my first tip of advice, especially if you're just going through a breakup, you're like freaking out, you don't know what to do, you clicked on this video, just let it out, and continue to let it out. So what was really helpful for me too is like throughout that first week, or even 2 weeks, I had a really wonderful friend who kind of just came over whenever, hung out with me, sat with me, and just held space for whatever I had. So sometimes I was laughing, other times I was crying, and I didn't feel weird or ashamed about it. It was just about processing that emotion. So yeah, the first thing is just to let it all out. The second thing, which I kind of touched on here, is to take a day for yourself. A day, I would say, is the minimum. If you need more time, obviously take more time, but take a day for yourself, and don't make any big decisions. So I think when you first go through a breakup, it's like you try to grab onto that relationship, or you try to say that you're going to do all these things or change all this stuff, or you try to fix it, or your mind goes into making decisions just in order to save that. And sometimes those are really big decisions that you shouldn't be making at that time. So take a day to yourself just to reflect. So in yoga, we talk about responding, not reacting. and that's what really helps me help me process the situation better. So for example, when I first went through my breakup, I didn't really say much actually, because I didn't want to say anything that I didn't mean, or say something that might have been hurtful or untrue. When something like this happens, especially if it's something that you're not expecting, definitely take the time to reflect on it and to respond. So in your practice, there's so many times it comes up to me where I'm in chair pose or warrior two or a really kind of high intense pose, and it's like my body starts reacting, my mind starts reacting, saying, I don't like this, this isn't fun, and maybe I come out or maybe I make a rash decision. But what yoga really teaches you after time is to instead just take a breath, let those emotions flush over your body, do a quick scan of how you're feeling, and choose to respond instead of react. So that is my second tip, just to take the day for yourself. Personally, I mean, I don't want to get too in depth about my relationship because it's something that's private, and I don't need to share that for everybody, but it happened kind of in the evening, and then I kind of took the whole night and the next day to really think about what had happened, and then I chose to reach back out to my ex and say something that came from a lot of thought, and it wasn't just me reacting the first time it happened. I was able to reflect on my emotions and respond in a way that was truthful to how I actually felt. And that took me a lot of time to process that. Took me all night and even into the next day. So don't feel like you need to explain everything right away when they're breaking up with you, or if you're breaking up with them, understand that they might also need some time just to process what's going on and then come back to that conversation later. So yeah, don't ever feel stressed or pressured to respond to them right away, because you're probably just reacting at that point, and it's not going to be from a place of authenticity or sincerity for yourself and the other person. So just take that time you need to reflect and then respond to them after. Okay, so after you have responded, the next thing I would say is that you're about to enter a stage where you have to now live life without that person and adjust to a whole lot of new emotions and experiences. And so what I kind of refer it to, and it might sound a little funny, but it's like contractions. So for me, I found that I could be fine one moment, and then the next it was like I was having a contraction where I would just get really emotional and I would start to cry. So my crying fits were kind of like contractions, and it was all in this process of kind of going through all this hard stuff to be almost like reborn in a sense into the new person that I was becoming on my own without my previous boyfriend. So just know that those tears are going to come up for you. Anger might come up for you, sadness, you might be laughing. It could be all random stuff, and it might come out of nowhere. So just understand that that's okay and that's normal. And to, again, just let it out and let it be. And hopefully you can surround yourself with people who love and support you and who will sit with you during your random tears. I remember I had to go home because I had booked a flight actually prior to my breakup to go back to visit him, my family back home. And I remember sitting with my mom one night, and it was just kind of an odd feeling because I had gone home on this trip to see him, but obviously we were no longer together, so I wasn't seeing him, and I was sitting outside with my mom on our patio, and I was just so upset, and I couldn't really speak, and I just cried, and she just held space for it. And that happened a lot during that week, where I would have really great moments, and then other moments I would be really upset, and that's normal. So just understanding that you're going to go through ebbs and flows, just like in your yoga practice. There might be days where you feel amazing in your practice, and there might be days when you're not doing so well, and you kind of just have to feel that out and let it out. So again, if you have these random bursts of crying, think of them like contractions. Know that you're moving forward into growing into a new version of yourself, and it's just part of that process, is just to grieve that loss. So then the next thing I would recommend is keep a list on your phone of quotes, advice, whatever speaks to you. So when I first got broken up with, I looked at every self-help book, I looked into different podcasts, and I had this list on my phone, and I'll read out the list to you because this is what spoke to me, and I'll also include it down below in case you also want to keep this list on your phone, but it really helped me when I was going through my breakup. So the first thing on my list was pray for what's the highest good for all. So obviously everything happens for a reason, and you did love that person at one point in your life, and so wishing ill on anybody isn't going to help make any situation easier. So that just kind of set me up in a positive mind frame, is just to pray for the highest good for all, for myself, for the person, for everybody else surrounded by the situation. If you have friends who are also involved, family members, just remember to praying for the highest good for all. The second thing on my list is to focus on what's thriving. So yes, you're going through a pretty big low right now, but I'm sure there are other things in your life, like maybe your job or your friendships or your side hustle or whatever else is going on for you, your yoga practice, your meditation practice. There must be something else that you can focus on that's thriving in your life. So me and my friend, we kind of called it like Thrive O'Clock. It's Thrive O'Clock somewhere. So just try to find one thing to be focusing on that's going really well in your life, and that really helps. So I had that on my phone for when I was feeling down. I tried to focus on what was thriving. I also had this quote that said, obstacles are detours in the right direction, playing into a lot of the universe. So I'll kind of get into this a little bit later in the video, but I honestly truly believe that the universe has a plan for me and for everybody involved. And yes, this might not make sense to you right now, and you might be thinking this wasn't what I had planned for myself or my future, or I wanted to be with this person. Just trusting and having faith that the universe is looking out for you and is putting you in the direction that's meant for you is really, really helpful. So any obstacle is just a detour in the right direction, and I know it might not be easy to see that right now, but just try to have as much faith as possible that you are getting pushed into the right path for you, and maybe that person might sync up with you later on. I'm not saying that anything's permanent, and there's a lot of comfort in knowing that everything is temporary, just like your relationship. Everything in this world is temporary. Your breakup is also temporary. It doesn't mean that that person might not come back later on, but just trusting and knowing that whatever does happen, it's going to be exactly right for you, and you just have to do your best to move forward and move on and take care of yourself first. Another quote I had on here is, the wound is the place where light enters you. So trying to find joy in the shittiest of shitty places you might be right now. For me, a lot of my light came from the friendships that I formed and the strong women who surrounded me and supported me and lifted me up. I get goosebumps thinking about just how many wonderful, beautiful relationships fostered out of this breakup, and how I saw like just how much my friends really loved and cared about me. I think for a while in my relationship, I kind of got lost in my partner, and one thing that came out of our breakup was me just solidifying all of my amazing friendships. So just looking for the light in the wound. The next thing I had on my list was ask for a sign, ask and you will receive. So sometimes if I was feeling really down, I'd look at this list, ask for a sign. I'd just say, hey, please just give me something. Just give me anything. It doesn't have to be big, but just knowing that the universe is looking out for you, and it will show you little hints and tricks and tips along the way if you ask for it and pay enough attention to it as well. And then I also had on here, when you think you've surrendered, surrender more. But basically just the concept of surrendering to knowing that like you no longer have control over this situation, that person is no longer with you anymore. So you can't control that, so you kind of just have to surrender it. I kind of use the example of, okay, I'll be okay as long as I never have to talk to him again. And that's not really surrendering. So I thought to myself, okay, I'll be okay even if I see him again, as long as I don't have to see him with someone else. And again, that's not really surrendering. So I said to myself finally, like, no, it's okay. I'll be okay even if I have to see him and see him with someone else, because I know deep down, like, I can let this go and I'll be okay as well. So just surrendering to the situation, trying not to control it. Another thing that I often would tell myself too is that you might be feeling like it's a really unfair, or that you did certain things for this person and they've kind of turned their back on you, or you love them so much and they just didn't love you back. Those are all things that you might kind of get resentment about, and I just offer up this idea that coming at it from the place of surrendering. So just because you showed up for someone and you love someone doesn't mean they have to love you back. It's kind of like this situation of a party, and I posted this on our Instagram before, where say if you're hosting a party and you say to the person, hey, I'm hosting this great party, it's gonna have amazing snacks and food, and like I'd love for you to make it, but it's okay if you don't because it's gonna be great anyways. That's surrendering. Whereas not surrendering is saying, hey, I hosted this party, it's gonna have great food and snacks, but you have to be there because I showed up to your party, and if you don't come, my party's gonna be ruined and you owe me this and da 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 da. That's not surrendering, right? Surrendering is saying, you know what, it's gonna be okay with or without you, and letting that go. So when you think you've surrendered, surrender more. And then I also just had 2 little quotes in here that just spoke to me that said, love is not an idea, it's an action. I think that's really valid, especially for when you do break up. There's a lot of thoughts that will come through your mind, and just thinking like, okay, that's an idea of what I wanted. What's the actual action that's happening here? And understanding that those 2 things might be separate, or you can find the action in someone else or in other relationships. And then lastly, my faith is greater than my fear. So that's just a list that I had on my phone that kind of helped keep me grounded, and help me through like tough days or tough moments. I would kind of just open it up on my phone and read through them and kind of re-solidify all the things I've been learning, and staying on that path of just trying to be as positive and moving as forward and upward as possible. I highly recommend kind of creating your own list like that, or like I said, I'll post mine below, that you can keep on your own phone and just remember and bring up whenever you're kind of going through a hard time and need something to focus on. The next thing I would say to do, and this isn't always possible, I understand, but if you do have the opportunity to do so, is to say your piece and to forgive. This is not something everyone can do. I luckily in my relationship had the opportunity to go see my ex after a few weeks had passed, and talk to him face to face, say the things that I forgave him for. So I think a lot of times during relationships and during breakups, there's a lot of anger and blame and hurt that happens. And I think a really big part of healing, especially spiritually, is understanding the power in forgiveness and forgiving that person. So I'm not saying that you have to do this, I'm just saying that it did really help me. My breakup, spiritually and emotionally, I made a list of things that I had felt really hurt me in the past, and I was able to sit down and look him in the eye and say, I forgive you for this, and this hurt me when you did this, but I forgive you for this. And going through that list was really therapeutic, because it's almost like you just kind of let that out and forgive. I think the yogic path is really about forgiveness and love and acceptance, and knowing that everybody is doing their best, and regardless of how it ends, I'm not saying like, I don't know, if they cheated on you or if they really hurt you, knowing that every action is either an act of love or a call for love. So kind of coming with that mindset, finding a way to find forgiveness is really helpful, because it helps you move forward as well as that person. And holding on to kind of like anger and resentment and hate is not going to help you move forward. So if you can find it in you to forgive, especially forgive them to their face, that's really helpful and therapeutic. So after you've done all of that, you're kind of left, at least I found I was left in this kind of odd space where, okay, like I've kind of grieved it, I know I'm not crying every day anymore, but now I have to move on with my life, and that person was probably a big part of your life. Maybe there's someone who you reached out to every single day, laughed with, joked with, so it's kind of like you have to relearn your life. So the first thing I would recommend doing is to save your energy for what matters. So I made this mistake earlier on in my breakup, where I was still kind of reaching out to my ex, and we were still friendly to each other, but I found that I was investing a lot of my energy in him, and I wasn't really aware of it. So subconsciously I was investing energy into thinking about what he's going to reply to my text message, or if he watched my Instagram story, or if he's going to like my photo, or if he is going to laugh at my joke, or whatever, right? Like, you kind of fall into those habits, and you can start to spend your energy on something that is no longer there. So that is when I would say to be really careful about your energy, and to make some tough decisions and some tough calls. So for me, it wasn't easy, but once I did it, I felt so much better. So the first thing I would recommend doing is muting your ex and all of their friends, family, acquaintances, anything that reminds you of them. mute them, block them all on your social media. So Instagram, Facebook. I mean, you don't really have to block anymore because there is that mute function. And I'm not saying you have to do this forever, but probably right after the breakup, I would definitely recommend muting all those people. You just don't want to have to think about them seeing your stuff or watching your story or kind of investing your energy or your time in thinking about that. If you just mute it and cut it out, you know, it's just not even going to cross your mind. And then you can use that energy to start to make new relationships or work on your current relationships already going on in your life. So yeah, save your energy for what matters, which is taking care of you and moving yourself forward, and not on your ex. Which can be hard, I understand, because I did it and I fell into that trap, but as soon as I kind of made that wall and that boundary, it opened myself up and the time I had to invest in all of these other amazing things going on in my life. Second thing I want to say is to understand that you're not perfect and you're going to make mistakes, and that's totally fine. It's about moving forward. So if you get drunk and text them, that's a normal thing that people do. Don't feel bad about it. I think lots of times people can be hard on themselves. Everybody makes mistakes. Everybody says things they don't mean. That's normal. That's human. Just acknowledging them, saying sorry if it's needed. I definitely had to do a couple apologies throughout my breakup. But yeah, just understanding that, you know what, you're going to make mistakes with this. It's a new thing that you're going through. You're not perfect. And just to forgive yourself, and keep moving forward, and don't let those things hold you down, or don't feel bad about it, because everybody does it. Go to therapy if you can. Sometimes talking it through with someone who's unbiased and is coming from a completely objective standpoint that doesn't know your history or your past is really helpful. I went to therapy, and I mean, I had other things that I wanted to talk to her. It wasn't just about my breakup, but it really did help me kind of process that and get through it. So if you can go to therapy and talk to someone, I'd recommend that. A yoga class can also be therapy. A lot of the classes I went to after my breakup really helped me, even if it's just a little quote the teacher gave at the beginning or something that you connected with in the class can be really beneficial to you for your mental health. And then the second last thing I want to go over, I know this video is probably getting really long, but is to have faith. So I truly, truly believe that the universe has a plan for each and every one of us. And that plan is just unraveling, and it's not always clear to you right away, and that's okay. Just have faith and trust you are moving forward in the direction that you're meant to be. After my breakup, I had this experience where I went to it was a celebration of life right after. It was just bad timing, but there was this woman who was giving the eulogy, and she just kept saying faith, 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 have faith. She always had faith. And it just really struck a chord with me that, yes, there's something going on in your life right now that you can't make sense of, and like this might seem like the end of the world, but really it's not. It's just pushing you in the right direction. Obstacles or detours in the right direction, and you just have to understand that this is all happening for a reason, and that reason might not be clear right now, but in time it's going to unravel and reveal itself, and you're going to understand why. And having faith is a lot better and a lot more optimistic, and I think it's going to push you closer to that realization than if you sit and be pessimistic and doubt and worry. That doesn't fix anything. It's not going to change the situation. So just choosing to have faith, I think, is really, really powerful and important. And then the last thing that I want to say is to use this time to explore new different parts of yourself that you may have tucked away. That was one thing that I really wasn't expecting to get out of my breakup. I had all these little parts of me that I had not really explored, and I kind of held back from my previous relationship, that this is now a whole new space for you to kind of reinvent yourself and see what else is out there, and meet new people and go on dates, see what it's like to be yourself all on your own. I think there's something really powerful in self-discovery and taking time to grow as an individual and not necessarily with someone else. So use this time to do that. So yeah, I hope this video was helpful. It got a little bit rambly, but those are the things that I would recommend doing to spiritually or get over a breakup from a yoga standpoint. I'm also going to link some other really helpful resources below that I watched or listened to while I was going through my breakup that really helped me, that might also help you guys. But yeah, if you have any questions at all, please leave a comment or message me. I'm more than happy to share my story with you guys or offer any advice that I can. But yeah, just know that you are not alone and you're going to get through this. and it might suck right now, but it will get better. And it's going to be ups and downs and ebbs and flows, so just kind of ride out the wave as best as possible, just like you would in your practice. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys found it a little bit helpful, and I will see you next week for another one. Bye guys.